Jeremy and I are loading the Spec. I found a K truck. Like that's a K truck. There, that's my solution to the exhaust dragging to get over this. She's loaded, just got to get it on flat so we can position it on the trailer a little bit better. I'm not very good at centering, so. Electric truck. All right, we're loaded and on the way home. We made it back to the barn. The truck's brakes are on fire because every road up to the barn is very mountainous on the way from up north. But we got it here. Spec and another Spec. Woo! That's the day we get back with the new car. It's raining, so I can't give like a tour of it. So now I gotta wait. But I think I have enough projects now. Spec, 240, truck, Altima, Maxima, which is doing pretty good right now, and just putting a sub in the G. So I got it hooked up to power just to see how much stuff works. This whole headlight, except for the marker light, basically doesn't work. Paint is okay. It's really not that great, but interior's mostly intact. This just needs clipped in. The switches need taken out. Interior just needs a good clean. Everything's just muddy. Mud. Same story for the underside of the car, but interior's intact. Radio still works. Center bin's broken. Center console lid's broken. That pops out super easy. The glove box lid, that's pretty common for every B15. It doesn't actually have SCR mats. They're just Walmart mats. It's got a lot of free French fries. Trunk latch still works, but I'm too lazy to open it. You can see the paint, again, not in the greatest shape, but car will get repainted. And previous owner said that it didn't have a trail of oil. And I think that's because, well, when it blew up, I should say, because there's a hole in it. And I should say there's probably no oil trail because it's all on the hood and the firewall. There's your oil trail. So overall, it's going to be a pretty decent project. I'm excited for the build. Oh, I think it's locked up. Yeah, I think it's locked up. That thing must have really exploded. So, I don't normally bash on other people's work because I'm not very good at tint either. But I don't think I've done this bad. That's just a tear. But one, this has all these air, like 150 air bubbles in it. This side is all scuffed up from trying to get it done, and a whole bunch of slivers of missing stuff. I mean, come on guys, if you can't tint, take it to a tint shop. So as you guys are about to see, this Sentra runs totally fine. The problem is when you rev it, the pedal doesn't make the engine do anything. The pedal is giving voltage, but for some reason the ECU is not seeing some of the parameters correctly, so it doesn't do anything. And I'm sure it's a small wiring fix, which would be probably pretty easy, but we can't find it. This car's been sitting for 6 months, and so many people have worked on this, and this gives me an excuse to do what I've always wanted to do: take a launch edition Spec V and put an SR in it and a turbo. SR turbo, 6-speed, Gen 1 Spec V. And then I can put a good QR in the Gen 2 Spec V. I should say Gen 1 B15 Spec V and Gen 2 B15 Spec V, because if I want to do a big turbo QR, this has all the aftermarket support and everything that I need to do that. So that's just what I'm gonna do. So my dear Spec here will be oh so generously donating its perfectly running QR. And then obviously when I do an SR swap, which I would like to do an SR swap on this, all the electrical gremlins will be taken care of because I got to replace the ECU, the harness, and the cluster. So anything QR related on this technically has to go. So it's a sad day, but it's the start of a even bigger future. So time to start stripping it apart. Alright, well, it looks like we're ready to drop this motor out. Everything's unhooked, as far as I can tell, minus the power steering pump, because I'm going to drop the engine till the power steering pump is down, accessible from here, so I can unbolt it from the motor and leave the lines intact. The exhaust is out as well. I think we're ready to do this. It's time to see if this thing's gonna lower out. It's loose, so. Alright, it's starting to hang up a little bit. Go that far, stop again. No, there's not. Okay. Put that back in there so I don't forget where it goes. I wonder if my creeper could handle the weight. The engine crane is what I'm going to use in order to pick the car up. And tomorrow, wow, that camera light's really bright. Tomorrow we'll pick the car up off the motor and hopefully slide it out. I'm sure it won't be that easy, but that's what we'll try to do. Here she sits on the floor, ready to get pulled out tomorrow. Okay, so you can see the setup I'm trying to do. Got this strap around the crash bar, which I have lifted cars with the crash bar before, so I'm not too worried about it. And I'm going to pick the car up with the engine crane on the 1-ton setting and hopefully have enough clearance around the legs that I'll be able to slide this thing out the side of the car where I have the most clearance, so I won't have to lift it as high, but still got to lift it pretty high up. Well, let's hope this goes according to plan, because if it doesn't, that would be expensive. There we go. We are up. Yes, the amount of cracking does worry me. This is also a 4-ton strap. I'm not too worried about that either. I just want to do this as fast as possible because this fucking freaks me out. It is now pissing out power steering fluid, which, sure, that's good. I'm going to try to stay somewhat out of the way. Last thing I want to do is have this car fall on me. I already had that happen once, and I don't like the thought of it. Quickly as possible, let's get this thing back close to the ground. Now watch how much this flexes when it hits the jack stand. That is a lot of chassis flex. Other than spilling a ton of power steering fluid, that worked very well. I'm not going to say I'm not like a little stressed out after that, because that was pretty stressful. Got a little PTSD from when a car fell on me. I'll tell you what, that is not fun. It hurts, especially when it's right on your head. Power steering fluid everywhere. Some people might be able to say they have, but I have never been able to do an engine swap without spilling at least one type of fluid on the ground. Well, that's what we were after. So now we just got to get this thing back together as a roller, push it outside, and then put that drivetrain in that car. Well, Spec is back on 4 wheels. It's got a hideous fender gap just like the Altima. And I got all the wiring zip tied up so it's not going to fall down on the ground. I got to hook up the battery with jumper cables, put the windows and stuff up, and then I can push it outside. Last thing we're going to do to get this engine ready for the car is get this cross member off, give it back to the Spec, and then this engine, once the drive axle, the transmission is off of it, is ready for the other Spec, but at least I can push this one back outside. Let's give a moment of silence for my OG Spec V as it will sit in the rain waiting for its new engine. Alright, cross members back in. Time to close the hood on this thing. I hope to see you again, good friend. Running. Maybe even with that SR20. Alright, get over the hump. This is pretty easy to push without an engine. So it is actually kind of sad for me to see this engine sitting on the floor and my Spec sitting outside. I know I got another one that I'm going to be building. I'm going to be driving a manual again soon. Finally, after 6 months of driving an automatic Maxima, finally going to have something manual to drive again. Until the Altima's done shortly after. But it is sad. Hopefully I can find a donor car for that quick so that Spec doesn't have to sit too long. It's pretty special to me. Not much else to say about that. It's just, I really like that car. It means a lot to me. So, all my cars do really after I have them for a little bit. So, anyway, let's get this new Spec in here and start stripping that apart too.